Hello and welcome to the Tumble Tanker Tavern. I am Jim, aka Argent Wind, and I'm your host for DM&D chat here on our YouTube channels. Hey, we got some folks here in the live channel, and hopefully get a few more here jumping in. As always, when you're here, we're going to be talking about a topic today that involves how to inject a little more fun into your games. Some things that can cause some games to slow down or to become a little less interesting for folks here. So this is a way to kind of spice it up a little bit, and to kind of avoid some pitfalls and traps. Um, which that will be actually one of the topics today. But anyway, as always, though, if you're in the chat there, throw out questions, throw out comments. I always like to hear from you folks here. If you have questions about anything, even if it's only tangentially related to what we're talking about, feel free to throw it in there. We'll jump in and check it out. Um, so, uh, focusing on fun. This is kind of a recent thing for me. Um, and there's just sometimes when you're in a game where the game mechanics or just the situation you're in here just stop being fun. Things get bogged down, too slow, too much happening, and it just kind of becomes a situation where you're kind of losing people, and you can tell. If you're in person, they're sort of like checking out, not really paying attention. If you're online, you go to say, "Hey, it's your turn." And they're, "Huh? What? Huh?" If you don't have your cameras on, or you can hear the anime they're watching in the background coming through their speakers or something. So this is one of those situations where if something's kind of bogging down or not working for the table, it's a great way to kind of on the fly, kind of a self assessment, a game assessment there, and then ways to kind of to uh, to inject a little more liveliness into the game. Um, Now, it's not always easy to spot it, but like I said, if if you see something and you're not sure, it doesn't hurt to ask the players. Like, hey, what did you think about tonight? Were you kind of bored? Was it too much of this, too much of that, too little of this? Get some feedback and kind of take that to heart here because it's a way that you're not always going to hit it out of the park every session. Not every encounter is going to go well. Not every encounter is going to grab everybody the same way. And so, um, as always, like take feedback from your players, ask for feedback, and take and really take it to heart, as much as you can, and understand that it's not a failure if not everyone's engaged. There's all kinds of things that people are going through in their real life. They're either tired or preoccupied or whatever. So sometimes players are going to have that sort of like deer in the headlights or kind of eyes glazed over kind of moments there, and it's not a problem. But find out what's going on. If you notice it, hey, what can I do to make this more fun? Are you okay? Is there anything else, anything going on? So, yes, give them shock therapy, and maybe virtually within the game potentially. That'll be one of the things we talk about here. But I'm going to talk about some different scenarios that can cause a game to bog down and cause your players to kind of check out. First of all, tasks that take too long, especially tasks that are performed primarily by one person. If one person's turn is taking too long, or the action in the scene is centering on one person's ability to do something, like pick a lock, then you're going to lose players. I recently played in a game where I am not exaggerating here. The rogue was trying to pick the lock to the door of the room that we were in for an hour, real time, an hour, just making rolls. Now, it wasn't he was only making rolls. Thing like the DM was going through sort of initiative thing of happening here, and something was happening off screen that we were sort of aware of, but wasn't immediately becoming apparent or necessary. But it was make a test. Everybody, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm still waiting to see what happens. I'm going to go over here and brace for the door. I'm going to go over here and make sure nobody comes in. I'm going to listen. And after a while, we're just like, nothing. Keep going. Nothing. Keep going. Until finally, um, until finally he got the last success he needed to open the lock, and we were out. At the same time, the barbarian was rushing over to actually break open the door, finally, just to say, heck with this. Um, but that's one of those situations where the rest of the players were just literally sitting around going, can't do much. This doesn't involve me. I can't really help because it's one person picking a lock. So think about those encounters, think about those situations, and what you can do to liven it up for them. And the very simple thing you can do is up the tension. If there are guards trying to find you and you're in a room, and this is a lock picking scenario or something like that, then have those guards making noise, have those guards getting closer. The players are then kind of like gearing up for another fight here, trying to hold them off, trying to keep the door shut as they start banging their shoulder in the door. That becomes now other tests that other players can do to be a part of the action, to be a part of the scene. And so that way, hey, make your check. I'm still not there. Okay, okay, they're bashing against the doorway here. Make your strength check to hold the door against them or whatever. So that way, again, it gives everyone something to do in the scene. And if it's a matter of that's what you're going for, is that kind of attention, then play that up. But if it's a situation where, hey, you managed to hide the bodies. The guards have no clue where you went. They're just kind of milling around out in the distance there, and the rogues need to take their time and get the block picked there. Then change the difficulty or lower the number of successes they need to just, hey, click, you're through, go, and then you move on. And so that way you're not stuck in a room waiting for one person to pick the lock, or one person to find the information you need, or one person to investigate things while everyone else kind of like stares off in the distance because you don't have the right skills to see it. Whatever's going on there. Again, when tasks take too long, and especially when they're taking only done by one person, think about ways to engage the rest of the party or bring or ramp up the tension and excitement of the scene. Okay. So next, and this is one I've experienced a number of times, especially in combat scenarios where there's just too many enemies and their followers and your summons and everything else. And there's just too much going on. And so if you're looking at an initiative order and you've got 40 things on the initiative order, well, here I am, I go, and I have to wait 39 more times for something else to do something before it comes back to my turn again. And I was actually in a game where I am not joking or exaggerating here. It was an hour and a half between my first turn and my second turn. That's insane. I mean, that's too much time. No one can stay engaged with the game when they're literally waiting an hour or more to go and do anything. And there's no ways to do reactions or anything else like that. So what you can do in those situations is kind of clump people together. Like in the case of a large battle happening, don't make every single person roll their initiative. Roll them in groups. These 5 guys are group 1. These 10 guys are group 2. These 10 guys are group 3. And that way, hey, make a bunch of tests, next initiative. Make a bunch of tests, next initiative. You can even do things like, well, yeah, they're all going to aid. They're going to only make 2 attacks, but they're going to be an advantage because they're all helping each other, and they're kind of do a team tactic situation there. There's no reason why you have to make literally 40 rolls for everything that's going on here. Make 1 or 2 and say, okay, well, based on that, how well you did, then maybe they get extra damage, or maybe like because they rolled so well, 2 of them hit instead of 1. So anything you can do to kind of speed things up to make things more interesting, and that way you can have fights with a lot of people on the battlefield and this crazy epic thing happening, but it isn't so slow in the initiative while you're waiting for each person to attack, each person to go. Um, so that's that's where it really, I mean, thinking about how long it takes. And if you have players, again, and I mentioned here, not getting lost in what your spells can do or and not, no idea what to do, um, give them, give somebody a little extra time, but don't let one person monopolize. Like if they say, well, can I do this? Well, can I do that? Can I do this? Can I do this? Um, it's really easy to kind of like say, hey, let's just pick something. Let's move on. Like you can always try something else out here. Obviously, if you have like a big area effect, there's a lot of rolls that have to happen that can take a little while longer, but that's okay. I mean, when someone is really very indecisive about their turn, And he's like, I don't know, I don't have, but I could do this, but I don't know how to do this. And um, again, think about ways to kind of speed that up. And if you have a player that they have just way too many abilities or way too many bells and whistles on their character sheet to keep track of, there, help them find ways of making shortcuts for them. Saying, okay, yeah, just make your attack, and just kind of ways to kind of keep it along here. You're making the same kind of attacks here. We got your roles set up. We know what you do here. Do this, do that. You're all good. Um, and then they can focus instead of having to figure out like what does my abilities do or how do I do this. They can focus more on the narrative aspect of like what does it look like when I do this? What is this crazy thing I want to do? They can get into like what kind of actions they're taking around that one attack or that three attacks or that 18 attacks or whatever it is. You can then they have fun playing up the description of what happens in this chaos um, instead of being stuck in the dice rolls for too long or stuck in someone's kind of looking over the character sheet and trying to figure it all out there. Um, there's always going to be some element to that and try to be supportive, be understanding, but find ways to kind of push it along so people aren't waiting for their turn for too long. Um, and and when it comes to things like summons and if you summon creatures or followers that have them there, try to make them all go at least on the same initiative, or if there's a reason why they're not, make sure the person's really aware of how that's going. Same with your enemies. As soon as you put more people on the battlefield, you make it more complicated, you make it take longer. So think about ways to like, yes, you go together. Yes, or you go then they go, or they can go then you go, whichever way you want to do, but it's your turn. What are you doing? What are they doing? And try to limit how many. We run into this problem sometimes with certain games where it's like I've got 3 followers that do this, and I've summoned up 8 creatures that do this. Again, find ways to shortcut those rolls. Just either you make 1 roll or you make 2 rolls and you make this amount here. So yeah, druids are a perfect example of this. And well, even wizards too, like they're elementals or lesser demons or whatever, or they're familiars and this and that. Um, you get that a lot with like caster classes where they can have summons, and it can just take a long time to resolve all of that extra stuff. And so, yeah, find ways to shortcut it and work it out with the player, like because it's kind of annoying for them too sometimes. Like, okay, well, yeah, okay, now this attack, now this guy gets 2 attacks, and now this guy's going over here and do this attack, and this it's like they're kind of all over the place trying to keep track of things. So find ways to shorten it, make it easier instead of encourage them to think of one big summon instead of like 8 little summons. Unless there's a reason why they're doing the 8 little ones, but then again, maybe you do like 1 roll for the whole group. So yeah, have fun with that. And just again, think about what's happening during the encounter and how much time is it taking to get around to someone's turn again. If it's too long, they're going to check out. They're not going to be having fun. So, and you're not going to be having fun because you're just be like frenetically trying to figure out keeping track of all this. Um, so again, find ways to shortcut, find ways to help people move things along a little quicker, and just yeah, make things a little bit easier on yourself and everybody else to make things go faster and more exciting. Um, Another big problem people run into is when you have something in the plot and it's locked behind a skill check. And think about it this way. Let's say there's a critical piece of information that's somewhere in this study. And I mentioned something like this before here, and so I want to bring it up again because it is important to think of here. Is it's somewhere in this room, and it's like, okay, well, everybody make a check, and this guy rolled okay, these guys rolled terrible, this guy got a critical failure. Okay, well, nobody found anything. Move on. But there's something in that room they needed, some clue they needed to progress the plot, something they absolutely had to have. Or there's a secret door in that room and they didn't spot the secret door. So, but that's the only way to move forward. That's where the area down in the dungeon is where the prisoner's being kept, or whatever happens there. If it's something critical that they need to progress in the plot, or a clue they need to draw the right conclusion down the road for something else that's happening here, don't lock it don't lock the success behind a single skill check. What you can do instead is think about what's going to happen if they fail. Really, if they're really searching for something there, you can either make them roll and roll and roll until somebody gets it, or roll and figure out what the high and put this in encounters and skill checks earlier, and it's something I tend to use a lot. It's who got the highest roll, who got the lowest roll. What does the low person figure out? What does the middle range figure out there? What does the high person figure out? And if they didn't get really high, like let's say the best roll was a 16, and you were internally thinking this is a DC 20 to find this, don't just say you didn't find it. It's just going to take them longer. So the idea of rather than having them check and then check again and then check again, just say, okay, yeah, there's something off in this room. You're not quite sure where it is here, but you're gonna keep looking. And they say, well, can I retest? Well, try a different skill. What do you want to do differently? Just looking around didn't help. What are you going to do differently now to discover something that you think might be in this place? So, or just say that, oh, hey, like it takes you a while. You find that like it there's a couple of clues and you spotted this and it really wasn't helpful and you spotted this and eventually you spotted this one thing like maybe this bookshelf was off in some way. There's some scratch marks on the floor. So okay, something is up with this in here. You take some time, you jimmy around, you jimmy around things and like play with the books and the items in the shelves here, and eventually you you hear a click. But while you hear that click, you can hear footsteps in the hallway or footprints or booted steps like running down the hall. Someone knows you're here. Somebody, so what are you going to do? And so now it becomes more of a where it was, hey, you just go and you found it and off you go. Now there's a potential encounter or a potential like danger that you now have to overcome because they didn't do so well. So the consequences aren't that you just fail, oh well. It's you succeeded, but it took longer. And now there's a complication because it took longer. So think along the lines of what's going to get, again, make that encounter more interesting, more fun, more exciting. Those are things we want to consider to really look into is what's going to bring up the tension, what's going to make them uh, like worried a little bit, kind of freaking out a little bit. Um, yeah, and or they fail and they move them somewhere else where they might succeed it later on. If it doesn't require that it has to be here, like, um, then sure they don't find it here, but they eventually find it in the pocket of a guard. They get they rifle through in the next room or whatever. Um, the other option, I hear this a lot in terms of encounters. Well, they went right and they see they were supposed to go left. Well, they don't know what the right branch was and what the left branch was. So if the thing they need to find was down the right and they went left, then just move it to the left. They will find it, and there you go. Think about like you don't have to say, well, this is it. If they don't get here, oh well, they can't figure it out. Now, if the intent is to explore the entire area, they just again they come back around and oh there it is, now we found it. But the idea is like, hey, they went to this town instead of that town, and the thing they needed was in this town. Well, then just move it to that town, or like put something else, some random encounters or something else interesting here. But hey, your princess is in another castle, or hey, you know what? I don't have this, but I heard a guy over in Stillwater might have it. He's been bragging about it. So again, like let them have their agency, let them make their choice, but then either make the choice what you need it to be to move on, or give them some other clues, give them some other interesting there, throw some side quests at them, do something that's going to be interesting, but isn't going to stop them from progressing in the plot. Okay, so if the players need it, let them find it. There can be complications. They can take a while. They may need to do some creative things to do here, but yeah, um, that's what we think about there in terms of again, what's going to be fun. The players want to succeed, and it's nothing more frustrating than trying something and failing, and trying something and failing. And well, you went here and it's not there, and you went here and it's not there, and there's nothing that's really telling them where to go or how to fix things here. Throw them a bone. Figure like throw them a clue that they might need, or just yep, you went the right way. Here it is. They don't know it wasn't there all along unless you tell them. But that's the whole thing. Make it so that they actually succeed. And again, they're going to have fun. They're going to be more interested in what's going on. And if they fail, make failure interesting. Failure can be just as interesting as succeeding. So it's about the journey, not the destination. As Dalinar from Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archives I would say here, journey before destination. So literally, like, let the exploration be part of the fun. And again, if it's something they have to have, make sure they get it, and however you need to. Yeah. Um, put a lady in the forest, told them to go back whence they came. They wanted to kill the lady. Again, don't get in my way. Like, kill the lady. I'm like, I mean, and that's where the whole thing is like, oh, well, the lady's just an image of some kind, or it's a ghostly thing that dissipates and disappears there. And they may ignored her and keep going, and then something bad happens. Put a really something really big and scary and terrible in front of them, and maybe they'll listen and back away and go somewhere else. Um, but players are going to be very stubborn about that sometimes. So, um, don't be afraid to challenge them in a way they're not going to expect. We run into this problem a lot of times in our games where nothing is insurmountable. Well, that's not real life. Things are insurmountable sometimes, and you have to choose to go back and try something else. Um, or you may just like it's like, hey, you just find yourself going in circles. There's a weird enchantment here. How do we break it? Well, you really can't. It's something about the nature of this place. But go ahead and try. And they succeed. They roll really well. Um, and okay, well, yeah, the fog parts, and you realize you're looking back the way you came, and that's the only way to go. You've been running in circles this entire time. So again, let them succeed, but still drive them forth to where you need to go. Um, kind of one of the last things here is if something is dragging on, if something is slow and you see your players there, don't be afraid to end it. Like if you've got a major combat and the main bad guy is dead and his mooks are still there and they're still trying to mop up the last of the guys here, or hey, there's a bigger encounter waiting and you're sitting here trying to get through the guards, end it. Let them get away. Give them a way to move on to where they want to go and not have to keep doing slogging through this and say, hey, can we just run? Absolutely. Make a check. Go. Um and so that it can change the nature of an encounter, or we run into the problem of like, hey, there's three guys left. Don't make them roll those last three attacks. And well, this person got a one, and so now this, and this person goes to cast a spell, and the guy got a natural 20 in his save, and now you're and like this last guy is just so hard to kill. It can be fun to kind of play up the affect of like, no, fight to the end. But really, realistically, most like minion type followers for bad guys are going to run. Even the most fanatic of cultists, they think they're going to see, hey, there were 20 of us, now there's two. I can sit here keep fighting, or I can run for reinforcements. Um, or I can just like finally just break and drop to the ground and quiver. Um, Again, what are you going to do with them when the players at the point where it's like this isn't fun anymore? Can we just end this and move on? Then do it. But give them an opportunity to finish. And if it comes down to, hey, these guys are not going to back down. All right, you guys have one round. Tell me how you end these guys and give them all an action. Let them describe an action that will do the thing they want to do. Don't make them roll for it, or you can roll to see again degree of success. But the idea of they want to accomplish something here. There's no reason they're not gonna succeed. It just might take a little time. So give them a chance to kind of play up the narrative, fun, crazy aspect of like, I want to do something like really, really crazy to this guy, or like let them have that moment of like, yeah, we've killed the bad guy. The last of us guys are here. What do we do to these guys? I want to knock them all unconscious, capture them, tie them up. We're gonna drag them off into a room and interrogate them. Okay, so the encounter ended, and now you have something else to do. Um, so another kind of a flip side of that is when you have players and they're sitting around, sort of like it's the dinner on a Friday night with your friends, and hey, I don't know, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't know, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do? And you're all sitting around here. Well, a friend of mine always says in those situations, Ninjas kick down the door and attack. Something happens. Something shakes it up. Something gets them out of that loop of I'm not sure what to do. Um, so it could be just like an unexpected enemy shows up, a sound goes off in the distance. Um, somebody you have everyone roll a check, and somebody has a flash of inspiration, and hey, you just remembered something. And here's what it is. And if you have the ability to kind of in person pass them a note or pull them aside and whisper to them, or if you're in online situation, you can do a whisper of some kind or a private message. Then hey, what while they're talking, pick one person and say, you suddenly remember something. There's this guy, this guy, this guy, and suddenly they may go, "Oh, hey, that's right, we forgot something," and then they're off and running with a different direction or a new idea they were just having trouble finding. So again, if something's dragging, do something. If they're stuck on something, give them something to help unstick them. Because again, it's all about fun. It's all about like succeeding. It's all you are not the doppelganger. Um, um, what? That means that somebody is. Oh no, what's going on? That might be a whole different story here. Um, uh, or something looks a little off about one of your friends over there. Their eyes just blinked the wrong direction. Um, like you swear it happened. So again, that's going to shake things up too. And if that's part of the situation, then great. If nothing else, it's going to set things off in a new way that gets them out of that rut of just spinning their wheels. Um, so again, today's really all about how to overcome those situations that just aren't very fun. And sometimes it's game mechanics that gets in the way. Sometimes it's encounter design. Sometimes it's bad rolls. And all of those things can cause things to bog down. And so these are ways. So these are just some different options for how to get over that rut and keep things moving along in a way that's going to be more interesting for everybody involved. So, a couple of you there. What questions do you have? What kind of situations can you think of that might need a situation like this? Um, and as always, as players, if you're out there playing, give your DM some constructive feedback. Don't just complain about everything and don't just throw negative things at them. 'Cause that's not very fun. But at least like, hey, you know what? I was really struggling with tonight here. It just wasn't all that fun. I couldn't do anything. Is there anything we can do differently in the future? Make them aware of it. Sometimes GMs just kind of get themselves stuck in that rut of like, yeah, you know what? This game mechanic is not fun. Let's change it up in the future so we're not doing the same thing again. Um, or maybe I'll go find a house rule, or maybe I'll make up a house rule that's going to make this more interesting for everybody and try something different. Um, this is a good question here. Actually, so what's a good way to engage people who don't seem to want to engage unless it's combat? And we talked a while back about different types of players in the game here, and that's kind of what we call the spectator. They just want to sit back and hang out with their friends and listen and see what's going on here. And when it comes to and then when it comes to combat, they'll jump in and roll dice. But even a lot of times, these folks here in combat aren't doing anything that interesting. They're just like, okay, it's my turn. Okay, I roll. I got an 18. Does that hit? Cool. Okay. Okay, I roll 12 damage. That's my turn. They, again, you're playing the game, but you're not adding anything to the fun of the narrative. So what you can do to encourage that is when they just when they're just sitting there being quiet, give them the notice thing. Like, hey, you noticed something off about this situation. Whisper to them. Or um, like everyone's talking here, call them out and say, uh, Bleeger, what are you doing? Huh? What? Like, well, everyone's talking about here. What are you doing, or what are you thinking right now? Um, what is your idea for what's going on? And sometimes if they sort of checked out when thinking about it, oh, I don't know, just whatever. Well, okay. Like, are you willing to go with this plan here? Are you willing to go with that plan there? Just a couple of questions to kind of draw them back into what's happening can really help that. Or if nothing else, if you have more players will sometimes pick up on that too and say, "Oh yeah, hey, Bleeger, what do you think about this?" Or "What do you know anything about these guys?" Sometimes players will jump in and try to draw it out of them too. Um, and if you have to, talk to some of your more experienced players outside of games saying, hey, can you get this person to come out of their shell a little bit? Maybe talk to them at the campfire, pull them aside during, have a conversation during, while you're exploring things. Um, and then maybe even like pair them up or do something where you can kind of like, hey, you guys got separated, you're up in here. And so now the observer, the spectator is with the role player, and that might just draw them into something doing that. If they have fun with it, then they may do it again in the future. Um, and also, if they get used to that kind of pattern of things, of I'm I'm going to be expected to do something here, or make a decision, or contribute in some way, they'll get better at it. A lot of times, it's about practice. People don't always jump into this knowing how to be a part of a role playing game, so they can get stuck sometimes, or they just don't. Some people just don't like it, but really, most people will engage in some way or other if you give them the opportunity and encourage them. And if in terms of combat, you can do things along the lines of, okay, I'm casting this spell. Oh, what does your spell look like? What does it look like when you cast your spell? You chant words? Do you well, yeah, I chant a bunch of words and wave my hands around. This big blast of fire forms around there, and I throw it out and explodes. Well, already they've added more imagery by just doing that. And while it's not exactly an original thing, it does draw them into that. And if you then describe what happens as a result of that action, well, now they're, oh, that was kind of cool. Or, oh yeah, the two of these guys were incinerated. They just scream and fall over like, whoa, cool, neat. Um, so again, ways to encourage them by either modeling it, drawing out of them, adding questions, or giving them more to go off of when they do participate in some way. If they're attacking someone, are like I swing my sword at them. What are you aiming for? I'm just trying to stick my sword through his chest. Okay, already you have something else to describe, and based on how they whether they roll, they may get a cool imagery about that. Um, it's something that you can do in every single role and every single combat and every single thing, but when you can do it, it's really good to encourage that and bring that out of them. Um, so I hope that helped. I hope that again, it, really, they may be having fun, just listening and being a part of it. Some people, that's the way it is for them. They want to be a part of the group. They want to hear. They want to listen in, and they're not like feeling all that creative energy and storytelling aspects. But when you can help them or draw them into it a little more, it's going to go a long ways toward encouraging them to do it in the future. So, other questions. In general, a more descriptive game, a more reactive, when you react to what the players do and give them some sort of cool uh, reaction to things, or like describing what happens as a result of their actions, they're going to be a lot more engaged. When they know that they're going to do something, if they say, "Oh yeah, I rolled an 18, does that hit?" Yeah, that hits. Where were you trying to hit them? Oh, um, I was swinging for his head. Okay, cool. You rolled really well, so roll your damage. Oh, that's pretty decent damage here. So it's not a deep hit, but you managed to hit him right in the side of the head there. He ducks his head back, but a good gash across his forehead, blood dripping down to his eyes. Um, so suddenly there's a consequence and a reaction to just them saying, "Oh yeah, I'm swinging for his head." Um, then you can go a little step further of, what are you following up with? What are you doing next? Here's what he does in response to that, on his turn. So they know that, hey, they did something, and now there's going to be something happening because of what they did. Now, again, they are a part of the story. They're really helping to drive the story, and that's a really encouraging thing for them to experience. Um, Anything else there? And your follow through is you bite his ear. Sure. I mean, it's one of those things. The guy, depending on what kind of person you're fighting against, they might do that. They might just like lunge in instead of stabbing you with their sword. They bite you instead. Yeah, I realize we're talking about Tyson here, but at the same time, there's lots of savage enemies out there that would absolutely do the same thing, if they had the capability. Um, Uh, and one thing is when you're describing abilities, describing attacks there is being narrative about it, but being very like switch it up a little bit. Um, if they have the same attack, describe it a little bit differently each time, or describe it in a way that's more interesting than just like, okay, he rolled this, there's that much damage. He rolled this, there's that much damage. Like describe it, describe the actual effect of what happens rather than just, I mean, rather than just what the result was on the numbers. You say, okay, he blasts you in the chest. You feel this burning sensation as a dart of energy like like sinks into you for 12 damage. So the more important part was the scripted part here, and then oh yeah, by the way, 12 damage. Um, that's it. So the number becomes less important than the narrative piece of it, than the more descriptive piece of it. That can be a lot of fun for folks there, and it depends on your party, depends on your players. So, uh, vacation coming up and trying to really concentrate on my next time to be a DM. And being a DM, no one's going to be right all the time. I've had missteps along the way quite a bit. Either campaigns that fell apart, or encounters that didn't quite go the way I wanted it to, or things that we have. It really like I want to encourage everyone, and that's the whole point of this series. And I'm glad you bring up old DM&D videos because a lot of this information, some of the stuff I talked about today, I've talked about in the past. Maybe in different ways, maybe, but it's very similar information. Um, a lot of information I have, I get inspired by other DMs out there who provided content and things that kind of resonated with me, and I've taken that into how I do things now. So understand, no one is a master DM out the gate. No one is just a like perfect right out the bat there. And even the best ones out there, they're going to have missteps. They're going to do things that that didn't quite work out the way I wanted to, or that went a little bit too long and it was kind of boring in spots. It's going to happen no matter how good you are. So don't be discouraged by those setbacks. Learn from them and try to do something a little bit different later on. Understand that sometimes that this thing you want to do in the plot may not work out the way you want it to, or it may backfire on you in a way you didn't consider. That happens. Roll with it and move on. Find a way to progress beyond that. Um, and so again, I really, um, anyone who's out there wanting to be a DM, the only way to really get good at it is to do it. Try it, experience it, and see what works for you. What what doesn't work for you. Um, when do we have to start DMing the new 2024 content? I'll tell you right now, you don't have to. Like, I'm gonna put it out there. There are people that still play D&D 3.5 and D&D Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. You don't have to go to the new system. You can also just take what you like and leave the rest. It's like a smorgasbord. Like you don't have to implement all the rules. You may say, hey, at this table, go ahead and use all the class options for 2024, but we're going to use this option here and do this option here, and make sure everyone's on board. Everyone's clear about that. But that way, there's no like because then it's your table. You decide what you want to do with it. Um, really, some of the changes are fairly minor. Some of them are good clarifications, and I'm just going to say right now, from what I've seen from a lot of DMs out there are some things in 2024 that are broken. They are absolutely ridiculous. Um, one guy I just saw basically teamed up a cleric and a monk and could do 15,000 damage a round to an army. Easy. Like average damage, 15,000 damage. Basically, imagine a cleric who has ninth level spirit guardians on him and a monk who's got 240 feet of movement and has the improved grappling feat where he can carry somebody without slowing his movement down. He grapples the cleric and runs him around the entire battlefield with ninth level spirit guardians on. Everything moves into it enters that radius, takes the what is it? 3, 5, like what 78 damage? It's nuts. The crazy changes to elemental some of the conjure elementals. How it just adds elemental damage to all of your attacks, to each attack roll. So then do that and stack a ninth level um, heavy guardians there and cast a ninth level scorching ray. You do like 12 rays, and each one gets the damage bonus from the elemental guardians. It's just crazy. Or a high level warlock who's got this and just eldritch blasting for like 8d8 per turn. It's like per attack, I mean. It's it's just there's just this crazy like power creep there. And so you may come up and say, hey, I found this cool thing here, and you might go, you know what? That's cool. You're right. It's too much. Let's dial it back. I'm gonna, and you may have to, as they say, nerf some things. Um, and hopefully your players will be okay with that. Or you go ahead and say, sure, go for it. You'll never see more than two guys on the battlefield, so that 15,000 damage you do to an army will never happen because I know what's going to happen. Or you build up to that point of like, here you go, have at it, and they had their moment to shine and to go crazy with it. Um, Knowing they have that in their pocket at some point in a pivotal, cool moment, giving them that crazy time to do that. But it's not something they're going to use in every single fight. And if it is, that's when you say, like, can you dial it back a bit? This is getting ridiculous. I can't challenge someone who can do that much damage all the time. So try something different, or else I'm going to have to nerf it. um, so yeah, it's one, but again, you're not required to do 2024 content. And there are some broken things in 2014 content as well. People saw crazy ways of getting stupidly high initiatives with paladins and assassin paladins who could just crit on their first round of attacks and smite crits on every single one of them. And it was like, I mean, you watch a paladin do 800 damage in the first round to and just end a guy. So, um, yeah, there's just all those kinds of crazy builds that are out there. And really, when it comes down to it, is your players. You work with your players, work about what's going to be fun for them, and what's not going to be too difficult to challenge them for you. Because challenge is fun. It's part of the fun is making a challenging encounter. If they just walk over everything, it's not all that fun. So giving them the challenge, but not making it so that they're just having to bring out the big guns all the time. That's a big part of what makes the game interesting for everybody. Okay. If there's any more questions, or we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Give you a minute or so to think about that. Um, but as always, again, this whole episode is really about what's going to be fun, not just for you, for them, and what's going to keep the game interesting for everybody, because it's all about it's all about fun. Um, I mean, and yeah, I mean, sometimes players make things not fun for other people. And that's where difficult conversations come in here. That may be another video down the road here, is how to have those conversations, how to talk to someone about this. Um, some people just some people just want to watch the world burn. Some people just want to throw a wrench in the works and make things not fun for anyone. And that's where you might have to separate ways. But again, we'll talk about that in a different video here. It's a good thing to check out here, in terms of how to deal with problem players. Okay. Yeah, well, let me write that down here so I don't forget there. Dealing problem players. Not sure I did one like that before. I may have touched on it a little bit, but yeah, I will put that down as a note here for the future. But as always, hey, thanks you for being active in chat here. Thanks for listening. Um, Thanks for just watching now and in the future, supporting our channel here. If you did like this, give it a like. If you and tell your friends about it. Tune in next time if you can there, or just watch it and reference us somewhere on the way. Anything to help out the channel and to get more people in here, so we have livelier chats and more interesting times ahead. So, anyway, thanks again for being here. Thanks for watching now in the future. As always, stop by the tavern anytime. Drinks are us, and we'll see you again. Drinks are on us, and we'll see you again real soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.